Good morning everyone, Chris at Rift here. Sorry it's been so long since the last vlog. It's just been flat out here, haven't had a chance to turn the camera on, but here we are. It is, Wednesday the 29th of May. Yesterday a customer contacted me and said he's got an old Marshall head that's playing up. Could I look at it for him? So he's dropped it down. Here it is. It is a 1971 Super PA50. I think they launched these actually in 1970, so this is second year of production. Overall it's in quite nice nick. It's got the original logo on the front that hasn't snapped off. Front panel looks to be in reasonable condition, but it has got some gaffer tape or some duct taping on. I'm going to do some sweep over so you can see the condition of the amplifier. It has had some work done in the past apparently, and some mods, so we'll see what's going on in there, see how original it is, see what's been done. He says the actual problem is that there's a loud hum and distortion when the amplifier is been on for about half an hour. So my first thing to do in the diagnostic procedure is to we'll remove the chassis from the cabinet. We will give it a visual inspection, see if there's anything obvious, particularly looking for signs of overheating, poor repair work in the past, dry joints, things like that. And if I don't see anything that stands out as immediately dangerous, we can put it on the test bench and run it up and see how it performs on both the oscilloscope and the spectrum analyzer. Probably a good time to measure the current output power as well. Looking in the rear now, I see it's got the original filter cans, or at least ones that are correct for the age of the amplifier. So we might need to look at them. I do see that the output transformer, the mains transformer, power transformer, has been replaced in the past. So that's a replacement unit. He did also give me a repair invoice from Marshall. He did tell me that it's been into their service centre at Bletchley 3 times in the past to try and fix this issue. He's getting a bit fed up, so he contacted me and said would I have a look for him. So that's where we are with it. That's our plan of attack, see what we can find out, what's going on. But this is a nice vintage Marshall that deserves to be running right. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so here we go. That looks to be, focus, the original Drake output transformer. Choke looks original, but this that's a replacement power transformer. I think the original would have had a drop through or lay down style, so that's not correct for the amp, but it appears to be provide the juice that the amp needs. So front panel, we can see this gaffer tape is holding down. It looks like it's been bent in the past. All the knobs look original. Same gaffer tape on that side there. Come around the rear. I don't know if that's going to come up. So Super PA, English model. Test date is 16th of March 1971. Standard levels of pitting. Got some Marshall branded EL34s. It looks like to have all modern production preamp valves as well. There's the original filter cans. So some of you may have already noticed it's got a replacement rear panel. Looks like it's had the bulging plug removed and a proper IEC fitted, which I approve of. Got the ohm selector, 2 outputs, mains and HT voltage fuses. So there we go. What I will say is there's a definite smell coming from this amplifier. It smells of mouldy shed, maybe rat or mouse urine as well, so it's been stored somewhere damp at some point. Hi everyone, it's actually now Monday the 3rd of June. That's the amp up on the bench there. I only managed to do a little bit of work on it last Wednesday before the phone rang, and then I had to get cracking on with other stuff, but I'll put up on the screen now what the sine wave looked like. Wasn't clean at all. Definitely a large amount of crossover distortion, which usually indicates that the output valves are biased super cold. So anyway, we've taken some measurements. Hopefully you can see these. So anode to cathode voltage on each valve, I've labelled them left and right. We're looking from the rear, 466 volts each. Screen to cathode voltage, 465 on each. And our bias voltage is a negative 59.2 on each side, which is incredibly low. I'd probably be looking somewhere in the low 30s for a set of EL34s. So clearly this is running quite cold. In fact, I've put in brackets there the maximum, with the pot turned fully clockwise, the lowest it would go, which is 53.3. So it's definitely biased quite cold. Now, the customer said it would start off okay and then end up really distorted. But from what I've seen, I can't get it to have a clean operation at all. So I think now that's just that's its default position. So usually in an old Marshall amp or a Marshall style amplifier, there are two 10 microfarad caps that sit in the bias supply, and if they are faulty, then you have to keep turning that bias, adjusting the bias to counteract for them. So I've pulled the two out. We're going to test them, see if they're leaky or see if there's any problems with them. For the cost of them, I'm going to put new ones in anyway, but I think it's just a good diagnostic procedure to test them and see where we are, and see if we can get a better range on our bias pot. Okay, so we've got the cheap cap tester set up. So we're just going to connect it up. We're just going to measure capacitance at the moment. We're not going to check for leakage. See what we get. They should be 10 microfarad. And that one's measuring 10.2, 10.19, 10.2. Get on there. The other one measures 10.16. So they're both measuring within their spec for capacitance, but we don't know if they're leaking. Sometimes I've seen these come out at 1 or 2, and some of them have gone high and they're up at 50 or 60. So they can give you all sorts of readings. But I mean, this is just a cheap Chinese tester that I've got, useful for testing, or just to help test stuff. Okay, so here we've got the heat kit condenser checker. This does two things really. Allows me to both measure the capacitance, just like our fancy unit does, but it also has a leakage checker. So it will indicate if there's less than 1 millivolt of leakage across a cap. So first thing we do is connect it up. We'll actually measure resistors as well as a kind of a rudimentary ohm meter. Okay, so our resistor is connected across here. So we're going to do a 25 volt test first. Need to set our to electrolytic mode. Now you see the magic eye. You see it's got the gap at the bottom. If that opens, there's no leakage. If it stays closed or opens slowly, excessively slowly I should say, then there is a leak. So 25 volts. It's open right up, so it's okay at 25 volts. Let's try 100 volts. No, they test good. Well, that one tests good anyway. Just let the cap drain off and then we'll test the other one. Okay, 25 volts. Good. 100 volts. Bit slow. Not too bad. We'll change them out anyway. These caps are good. No problem with them. So now we need to start looking at the other components in the bias supply and see if we can work out what's going wrong. Okay, so I managed to pull the schematic for the amplifier off the internet, model 1963. First things to note, it's actually got a pinout table here. So looking at our output valves, it wants to see about 430 volts on the plates or the anodes and 435 on the screens with a bias voltage of around -31. So we know, based on the measurements we've already taken, that the amplifier is not performing as intended. Obviously these are plus or minus 10%, but here we go. So bias supplies in here. What I've done is I've drawn it out so it's easier to see. So from the high voltage winding of the power transformer, we've got a dropper resistor, 220k. I can see in the amplifier that has already been replaced. That goes on to a silicone diode. Obviously being a negative supply, it's now in reverse, so the cathode is towards the high voltage supply. First stage of filtering is, on the schematic, is 8 microfarad. It's actually 10 in there. I've actually drawn these upside down. They should be negative towards the ground. No, sorry, positive towards the ground, but ignore that for the time being. So it's actually 2 stages of filtering for the bias supply. We've got an 8 or a 10 here, we've got a 15k dropper here, another filter there, and these are the 2 caps that we've just tested. Then we've got our a 47k resistor leading to a 25k bias pot. That's the bit we actually adjust, and that sends from there. That will then send off our negative voltage to our EL34s. So I'm just going to go through and measure the resistors in that circuit. It's very uncommon for these diodes to actually go. It's probably a 1N4 007 or similar. But I know it's rectifying. I've got AC on this side and obviously DC this side, so I know it's working, so I've got no reason to suspect it at the moment. So we're just going to check that. So we can check the resistors, 1, 2, 3, and the bias pot as well. Make sure that that's working as intended. If all of this checks out, then we need to look at other options. Well, it could be that the output valves are actually so worn out that we can't bias them hot enough. So we will need to test the EL34s, but the next thing we're going to do is just quickly go through and test all the resistors in the bias circuit. If they're all good, I'll put new electrolytics in the right direction, and then we'll just fire it up again and see if anything changes, we get any different measurements from last time, and hopefully that might start sending us in the right direction. Okay, so we're back over on the app. I don't know if you're able to see the readings that I've had to take, but I'll shout them out to you anyway. I need to write them down. So the first one to check, got our leads untwisted, is this first dropper resistor of 220k. And it measures 217k. So that's within spec. Next one is this 15k, brown, green, orange. Measures 15.02. Pretty much bang on, isn't it? 15.02k. Next one is this 47k, yellow, violet, orange. Oh, that's measuring 100k. That is in circuit, so maybe it's best if I lift one leg just to double check it. Measures 100k to ground, and we should have a maximum of 47. Maybe that bias pot is causing problems to our readings. Back it all the other way. No, it's still measuring that, so we'll just snip it out. We'll replace it anyway. So outer circuit, it now measures 100k. Well, and then while we're at it, our bias pot should be 25k. Measures 37.4. From the wiper to one side. I spin it the other way. We'll measure the wiper to the other side. Yeah, so the pot's gone. Well, I don't know, the pot's gone high. So let's rebuild this bias supply. It's getting a bit tired anyway. That resistor's good. I've got no reason to suspect the diode. 15k is good, so we're going to put new caps in here, a new 47k resistor here, and then yeah, let's just swap that cap out, that resistor, and then see if our bias voltage changes. Okay, so let's pull the these components out. Someone's worked on this before in this area, so maybe this has been an ongoing problem that someone just can't get to the bottom of. But either way, it can only be a cap or a resistor in the end, right, can't it? So let's see where we can get. I've just got the old solder sucker here. We're just melting solder on the terminals, or the turrets in this case. Sometimes you have to put solder in to help suck it out. I really should get a proper soldering gun, but a desoldering gun. Lift that leg out. Okay, so we need a 47k resistor. No, we can't be out. We can't be out. No, we're all good. 47k. $47k. So I haven't actually worked on an old Marshall in a while. There's been a lot of fenders lately, but not. Apart from Ainsley's JMPs, I haven't had many of these through the door. Come on, behave yourself. There's a load of crud on the leg of this resistor. It's just stopping it. Going in. Let's get the other way. Let's get you in first. And you second. There we go. So, new 47k resistor put in. Let's just verify. Still got 15k on the 15k. Yep. And that 47k in circuit measures 46k. We'll give it that. So to ground, we had about 100k, didn't we? No, we've got 45k one side. Half a meg the other. Something's going wrong here. Yeah, they do. So we can measure at that point. Two meg at one side. That can't be right, can it? And at the other end of rotation, 47k. Wow. So we'll set the pot halfway on its travel. There. Fire her up. See if I've... Oh no, I can't because I'm putting this cap there, haven't I? Getting ahead of myself, look. Go on, Mr. Cap, all right. There's one. Oh, phone. So here we go, 10 microfarad, sorry, at 100 volts. Let's get that one in. Right, I'm just going to pop these in and then come back. Okay, so caps are in, resistors changed, bias pot is set kind of halfway. I've got a meter measuring DC, so we're going to see what our new bias range is. Doing this with the valves installed, so we'll start up in restriction mode, see what it gives us, and then we'll take it from there. But I'm looking for, well, as long as we can achieve around 30, negative 30, I think we should be good. So I can hear him through the speaker. But I'm not getting a measurement. Why would that be? Oh, there we go. Dodgy leads. Right. Off. Okay, so the bias kept going up and up and up. So what I've done is the customer supplied an old set of EL34s. I assume it's an old set. They look worn. I've just popped them in. I reset the bias to 31 degrees, 31 volts. God, 31 volts, and it's been running now for 5 minutes, and it's bang on at 31, negative 31. So we're going to let's get it nice and hot. Okay, so we now, I don't know if you saw from last time, I'll just bring you over to show you. We've now got on the scope a beautiful sine wave. Bring it down, back up, it's running nice and clean. Our bias voltage is steady at negative 31. So we may be done. We may be done. So we'll leave that burning in for a couple of hours, see if anything changes. But that looks really nice on the scope. I'm going to ring the customer and tell him, ask him what, and while I'm there, I'll ask him what he wants me to do about channel 3 that's been disconnected. Shall I put it all back to stock? But that is now looking fantastic. So I think, well, what happened? That resistor had gone high, it doubled in value. So in order for that to happen, would have had to been passing excess current to ground, I guess, or it's just drifted over time. But also those old valves probably either worn out or they've got an internal problem somewhere that's causing problems. But this is now running beautifully. I don't see a problem with that at all. We will measure output voltage later on, but I'm going to speak to Mr. Customer now, see what he wants me to do, see if we can make a decision on the amplifier. Good news. Okay, so I've just spoken to Mr. Customer. It's been running for about an hour since we last spoke. Bias is nice and steady at negative 31. Sine wave is beautiful, no crossover distortion. Harmonic profile looks good. He's asked me to return channel 3 and channel 4 back to stock. Because as you remember, channel 3 has been disconnected. So we're going to put all that back to stock. Replace the bypass caps on the first stages and then we can just give it one final test, write all the measurements down and button it all back up. So in terms of the repair, that's now done, so we can consider this amplifier completed.